Can we get a creepy in a woods story thread going? True stories only please. There's a place in Imman I thought would be a nice area to go for a walk in, called the Quaking Bog and Theodore Wirth Parkway. I started in and passed an older man sitting on a stump. He had definitely noticed me as I walked by, but it was nothing unusual. I started towards the top of the hill first. There are a few different paths you can take. Almost at the top I realized the old man that had been sitting on the stump at the start was not far behind me, which is where shit got weird. I decided to go back down the hill, past the man, and continue in the same direction, just at the base of the hill instead. The old man moved in the same direction and at the same pace. If I stopped, he stopped. And stared. I let this go on for about 2 minutes before I decided I was uncomfortable, and pretty much booked it back to my car. I was extremely relieved to find a liquor rep from work just about to go into those same woods. He didn't seem put off at all. Another time I stopped in that same parking lot to pack a bowl and an Indian guy followed me out and into another neighborhood from there. I managed to make a U-turn and be going the opposite direction by the time he caught up with me. My stories are weak though. Who has the scary juice/B?
You posted this on /B/earlier, and I tried to reply, but connection errors. Be me, 1012. With friend who I was only close with during those years. I live on a dead-end street, with woods behind the dead end. It's used as a shortcut for neighborhood kids, and was the pothead paradise for over a decade. These woods were, and still are known simply as the creek. Me and friend decide to find the end of the creek. We'd explored these woods once or twice together. Oh yeah, there's a creek that goes through the whole forest, hence why it's called the creek. We walk along the creek for about a mile let's say, path is blocked so we have to reroute through thick brush. Walking through endless brush, at least 45 minutes go by. Gets dead silent out of nowhere. We both get a bad feeling, and decide to turn back. Going back the way we came about 15 minutes, brush is thick, getting scratched and shit. See a small clearing like someone weed whacked it, and go over to it to rest, reevaluate, and maybe find out where we are. Arielosno.amv. We are under a tree in a clearing, it's dead silent still. Hear a lawnmower fire up, sounding like it's coming from the other side of the tree. Decide to go see because the neighborhood surrounds the creek, so if we saw houses we'd know where we were at least. Crawl under, through this tree, friend 10 feet behind me. Get on other side, and I'm all of a sudden in a suburban backyard. See a man with red tank top, khaki shorts, white shoes, white mid-length socks, and he was clearly of Eastern European descent. Call out to him, literally yelling sir, me, and my friend are lost, can you tell us what street this is? No response, doesn't even acknowledge the kid clearly in his backyard. Look at his house, and noticed everything was off. This guy's entire house was covered in greenery, growth, ivy, any plant-based life was on this guy's house. To the point where you could see no space, there was no paths on the sides of his house, no fence, no street in front, nothing but vegetation. Like I can't stress it enough, this man's house was what Captain Planet's fortress would look like. Get a feeling I can only describe as what it must feel like to go in the wardrobe from Chronicles of Narnia. Guy lets go of the mower, it turns off, he slowly turns his head to me, and glares at me with nothing behind his eyes, no questions just a look like he had never saw another human being before. No words are said, I look back see my friend still by the tree, he's asking me questions, I climb back under the tree, grab my friend, and hightailed it. We got legit lost in the woods 2 or 3 times before we made it out. Friend didn't believe me, thought the guy was just foreign and couldn't speak English. I know for a fact either that guy has a secret house in the middle of very small woods, or I transported to a different dimension where all that existed was this man, and his house. Got goosebumps typing that last part, from me.
Be me 18 years old. Live in Netherlands so weed is easy to get. Go to a nearby forest with 2 friends to smoke blunts. It was in August so sun is up till late. Find a spot to smoke. Smoke, X. After a while my friend said he spotted someone behind us somewhere. Think it's probably just someone with his dog wandering around. Cloud starts to form and so it gets somewhat darker. After a while the sun goes down and we decide to walk home again. Agree to take the long route to say we can enjoy the nature and bit. Friend says again something is behind us. I turn around but I see nothing. Probably just the weed messing with you. About 15 minutes walking and I hear an crack. Shit.jpg. We all hear it and start walking faster. I grab my phone from my pocket and am ready to press my flashlight on. And crack behind us again. I turn around with the flashlight on. Random around 75 old man looks at us with intense eyes. Starts randomly screaming. Fuck the shit. We all start running towards the exit of the forest and ride away fast on our bikes. Next day my friend's mother who works in an elderly home nearby the forest told us that one of their patients with Alzheimer, dementia escaped. They found him dead the day after in the forest.
Not me, but my close friend. I only know what I've been told, and it may be a bit off since I'm acting as second-hand storyteller. Be my friend, around middle school age 5 or so years ago. Out in the woods with couple of friends. Camping. Hanging out with friends doing whatever. Go outside, notice something in tree in the distance. Looks like a cow or some shit, it's dark as hell but it literally just looks like a cow sitting in the tree. The hell? I'm stunned, call other friends over. Thing drops from the tree and stands up. Maybe 7 to 8 feet, absolutely massive. Scraggly hair by the looks. Messed up face, almost monkey-like. So unnatural, long arms and legs. Very disproportionate. Freaking the hell out. Thing notices and then runs in the opposite direction, not running normally, just doing the most unnatural fucking limp run ever. Holy fucking shit? Friends are all freaking out. I'm freaking out. We bolt. Next morning, go back out by the tree to check it out for reference of height and such. Ground is disturbed in front of tree where thing jumped down. Branch was very high up that it was perched on. Friend told me him and another friend of ours did a lookup based on the description and they think it was something called Nalusifalea, some Choctaw Indian myth thing. We live not too far from Choctaw territory in Oklahoma. We're from Texas, and at the time they were camping around it as well. I don't know. Every time he tells me that story I get chills.
Maybe not creepy, scary to anyone else, but it was to me at the time. Where I grew up there was an extremely large wooded area that bordered a property. I practically grew up in the woods. I knew them like the back of my hand, and have never had anything really out of place, aside from stumbling onto a few hunters that shouldn't have been there anyways. One day, when I was about 15, was out roaming as I often did, and it went dead silent, not just quiet but completely still. These woods were usually noisy, birds, small critters and deer were plentiful, as well as there was a pretty decent running creek not far away. I had never experienced anything like that at all, and for the first time ever I was scared of being in these woods that always felt like a second home. Everything in me was telling me run and run fast, but I was having trouble moving from the spot I stopped in when it went silent. I can't say how long it lasted, it could have only been a few minutes but it felt like an hour. It was the only time this ever happened to me in those woods.
KK, I'm back, so here it goes. Be me. Backpack camping in Colorado with Brox 2. Be near abandoned super fun site and wanna go explore that place. Sun is setting as we walk along a railroad track to the mining area. First weird thing was a few .45 cal shell casings. Figured if you were target shooting there would be more. Also found bear and coyote scat there. We arrived just outside of the area, Night had fallen and we were taking it slow. Out of nowhere, almost run into an older guy looking to be in his late 40s, huge beard and weird leather apron on. We wave but he power walks off. Once inside we start walking around. Place was cash, lots of tags too. Aside from dicking around with some old machines, we didn't really notice much. We move under a large structure inspecting some stuff that once held coal. As I pull my head out, hear a crow from inside. Little freaked because 1, it sounds like a warped old recording of a crow, and 2, because there was no way a bird was in there. Bro says something doesn't feel right and he wants to leave. Seconds later we hear someone call out. Not wanting to be seen, we hit the deck and hide in and around machinery. Watch a guy slowly walk into the open and just stand there looming straight into the woods for 30 minutes. Whole time tense as fuck. During this time a massive pipe I was next to starts ringing like someone was beating it with something heavy. Me and both brothers are freaking out and hunker down deeper under the structure, sure we are gonna get grabbed. Weird guy doesn't even notice and walks off. Still panicked, we wait another 30 minutes before trying to come out. See some guy posted up high watching the area, and so we hide again. Time seemed to creep on forever before we finally moved again. This time no one was there, letting us sneak away unseen. On our way out I looked to my left and not 10 feet away, sitting on a wall, was a pitch black human shape looking at us. I just sorta went blank and waved as it leaned in. I guess it wasn't evil because nothing bad happened, but once we got away from the area we almost slam into the weird guy we saw leaving at the start. He just appeared 5 feet in front of us, blank stare. Even worse, we only saw him because we all turned on our LED lights and they shined in his face like a crappy horror film. Hey man, probably shouldn't go that way, storm's coming. He just slowly looks at me and sarcastically says, "Oh, is it?" We once more walked off, careful now in case this guy was a murder hobo on drugs. Thankfully we made it back just as it started to rain and quickly slipped into our shared tent, no homo. As the rain picks up though, we notice footsteps outside the tent. Nervously I pull out my pistol. Looking back, there is no way that murder hobo had a chance to catch up to us unless he scaled a damn cliff in 5 minutes. That's when something grabbed my ankle through the tent and shook it. I kicked out of its grasp and started yelling that I had a gun. No footsteps, but I wasn't gonna go out there, so we stayed up all night waiting to see what happened. Thankfully that was the end of it, but next day we never could find animal or human tracks.
Can we get an innawoods thread going on? I'm about to go camping in Yellowstone here in a few weeks and wanna get the spooks tonight. Preferably, try to keep them to true stories only. No hairless naked thin man nonsense that you see in every thread. I'll start. Be me, 14. Be camping in Oklahoma where I used to live. It's really late at night and I woke up to go take a piss. I walk out of the tent and the fire is still barely going. Walk over to a tree to take a piss. Look up and see a rather big orb of light floating in the sky. Looks like a star but much bigger and brighter, not moving. As I'm watching it, it slowly starts to get smaller and smaller until it disappears. Took about a minute to vanish. Think it's just some place or something and I'm looking at it at a weird perspective. Get done pissing, turn around and look up. See the same orb but on the opposite side of the sky. Same thing happens, slowly shrinks, and disappears. About 5 minutes later I see spotlights searching the sky. Wind picks up, clouds roll in, and it starts storming. What the actual hell /x/. Fucking Isle Mouse.
Camping in Snowdonia National Park in Wales. Up on Cadair Idris. Tents are up, it's summer so not expecting a gale. Actually looks like it might be a nice night. Every few minutes my friend looks up like he's listening for something or he's heard a noise. When I ask him he's like, nah, it's nothing DW, I'm probably going a bit mental. Clearly fucking with me. It's approaching dusk, he's just trying to freak me out. He says fuck off, can you hear that now? Or am I actually going mad? I listen. Listen real hard. I can hear music. Can't tell direction, but it sounds like fiddles, trumpets, bells, drums. We pat ourselves down looking for a phone that switched speaker on. We're sitting in then opening to our individual tents just looking at each other like what the fuck. Music is getting louder. Wind picks up, it's strong now. Camp stove blows over. Music peaks and then dies away, pitch decreasing like a car when it drives past you on a motorway. We're just staring at each other blankly. Fucking Welsh ghost parade in the hills. Not really scary but weird as heck.
B13. Sneak into forest at like 1 a.m. with my 2 closest friends. Call them C and N. Had a box cutter on me, C had a box cutter too, N had a screwdriver, or another box cutter. Walking, talking. Peaceful quiet of the ambient summer night. Keep walking deeper. Didn't know the size or shape of forest. Eventually get into prairie-like part of forest. Also right next to tree-heavy area, like on the border. I hear something but C and N keep talking. Hear it again. Tell friends to shut up. We all hear howls and roars as they get louder. We look at each other for half a second while trying to comprehend WTF was going on. Turned the fuck around and run so fast that our legs burned and our veins pumped battery acid. Then we ran some more. Ran about 2 miles to N's house. We went back to the forest in the day a few weeks later and found a coyote den about 150 feet away from where we were when we heard the noise.
When I was 15 I thought I was going insane. Go to woods at like midnight on a chilly autumn night. Make Slenderman operator symbol to fuck with friends. They actually get scared. Hear a loud crashing noise in the lake about 15 feet away from us. They get a little spooked. Leave BC nothing else to do. Hear things but think it's just me being crazy. About to finally get to the exit of the woods. About 10 feet in front of others except for my best friend, has in front of me. He screams. I look up BC. I was looking down for some reason. See a huge dark figure in front of me. Felt almost as if I was in a different dimension. Can't be me being crazy. BC friends saw it too. We run, we sprint. Don't know what we saw that night on account of how dark it was. We think it was Slenderman, but it's not real. Right?
Meet up with group of friends. About 7 people total. We're all chilling, decide to smoke as everyone had a little ganja to pitch in. Head into a nearby trail that I know quite well, I walk it often. Walk the trail for around 20 minutes in the dark, phone flashlights illuminating our way. Eventually arrive at a clearing and we all sit down in the middle of it, 3 fat friends struggling for air. We make fun of them for a bit and relax in the clearing, eventually pull out the dope and start smoking. After we finish the first pack, we all start messing with each other, trying to scare one another in the woods, typical shit. After a while, our one friend who's been almost silent up until this point says, "Do you guys see them too?" At first I wanted to perceive it as a joke, but his tone was utterly serious and seemingly malicious. He genuinely creeps everyone out, but we shake it off with a simple haha, good one man, stop fucking around. He still sits there, stone-faced. I asked you guys a question. Look over at the tree line. Do you see them? We look around before one of our other friends points out 6 different colored lights at the tree line, all roughly 6 feet off the ground, roughly 10 feet apart. Are those eyes? They start to come towards us all at once, their silhouettes visible in the moonlight. We pack our shit up and start to head out, everyone's walking pretty fast, almost at a jogging pace. Except our friend who pointed it out, we eventually lose sight of him in the dark of the woods. We stand in an adjacent backyard to the mouth of the trail waiting for him, assuming he got lost or something. To clarify, the lights were in pairs. Should have worded it better. After about 10 minutes, we begin to really panic and start to head into the woods to find him. At the deepest visible point of the trail, one pair of eyes becomes visible, soldering into our field of view very low to the forest floor. They hold their spot for a bit before rising all the way up to the position they were in when we first saw them. We all sat there, transfixed. After a few seconds, we hear something barreling through the woods, loud thuds, limbs snapping and leaves crumbling. The friend we lost comes tumbling out of the woods, a few tears in his shirt and his nose bleeding, his face pale as hell. He stands up and dusts himself off and walks towards us normally. I think we should go now, guys. No questions from me. We head back to my house. Our friend kept his distance behind us the entire time. All of us were freaking the fuck out. Once we arrived at my house, he said, "I'm just gonna go now," and got in his car and left. Only hear from him 4 or 5 more times after that. Each time was through text, Steam message. Tried to ask him about that night twice, both times he just never responded. Haven't heard from him in roughly a year. He doesn't use any form of social media anymore and hasn't been on Steam in over a year. TFW, none of my friends talk about that night, and never bring up our friend who left mysteriously that evening.
I was working at the local nature center during one summer. It was your typical hot Michigan summer day, and I'm on the edge of the center's property, a part that no one really goes to because there is no real easy access, but I like exploring the wilderness. That being said, my senses are slightly more adept than others when it comes to hearing and seeing animals when they're hiding. So I'm walking through the dense forest when I come onto this dead spot like you stepped through these trees and everything went from living to dead. The crazy part about it is that there was no sound, not a bird chirping or a frog croaking, dead quiet. The scariest shit though was the cool breeze that blew through and I noped the fuck out of there. I never went back to that part of the woods again.
Not exactly ghost story, but here's a repost of mine. Be me, like 10-11 years old. Go at school to natural park near where I live, Monte Oloya in Spain, in case you wanna check it out. Have like 2 hours free, so me and some friends decide to go out and see what we can find. It's all normal paths, all marked, nothing special. All except me and other kid decide they are hungry and go back to the cafeteria. We decide to keep on going since the path is a circle and we'll get there in a bit. It's cloudy and there's fog since the morning, but nothing too bad. Keep on walking, we're getting nowhere and we start to think that somehow we got lost even though we followed the only path there is. Fog gets thicker and we keep on walking faster. Literally getting nowhere after easily 2 hours of walking, have to stop twice because we were legit exhausted from walking. We eat through our sandwiches on our second pause to try and wait for the fog to clear. Eventually we get to the edge of the cafeteria zone. Lamau on back already? Thought you two were going to do the whole path. Afraid of the fog? Lol. Turns out we came back less than 5 minutes after they arrived. No one believed us and everyone ended up making up their own stories, thinking we were starting some sort of spooky tales competition. It's been a decade and I still have nightmares of that damn walk. Fuck that park.
Be me in freshman year of high school. Out in the woods with some friends, only 7 of us including me. We were just out there looking for a new spot to chill in and smoke. Hard to find a good enough area, so we go about 15-20 minutes in walking distance on a rough path. Come across a cleared out area with logs stacked on the outer edges and in the middle. It's a perfect square. The logs in the middle make an X. Friends are in awe except me and some other kid. We both just want to leave and our friends call us pussies. We're sitting down on the middle logs. I'm still paranoid. Someone's pulling out the bud when I hear a thump. Turn around and see one of my friends on the ground, passed out. Me and some other kid pick him up while the others book it out of there. We're struggling to keep him up, but he's a small kid and doesn't weigh much. Hear some crazy, rough laughter that's pretty loud. He wakes up about 3/4 of the way back. We make it back to the outer edges and try to figure out what happened. Kid who got knocked out said something hit his head, there's a bump on his head to prove it. Never go back there again. I think it was just one of the hobos that lives out in the woods.
B16. Live in small town in ass end of nowhere. Camping in some woods a few miles outside of town. Drinking with friends, couples getting laid, smoking weed, it's all good. Pass out. Woken up by the sound of people shouting and thrashing about. Assume my friends are fighting in a drunken argument. Get out of tent and there is some guy all dressed in camo fighting my friend Mike. I intervene and pull him away from my friend. He says stay the fuck away from here and walks off. We decide it's time to head home. On car journey home I notice one of my friends, let's call him Steve, with red eyes like he had been crying. Get home, go to sleep, few days pass. My friend Mike calls, tells me while everyone was sleeping, camo guy had snuck into Steve's tent and held a knife to his throat and told him to suck his dick. Am just glad he never chose my tent. That was years ago, we laugh about it now and even still call Steve dick sucker now and then. You can tell by his face it bothers him.
This took place in the northern part of the lower peninsula of Michigan, a few years back. B15 or so. Every year Dad's side of family rents out a cottage resort on a lake and gets drunk for a week. Area is decently developed, resort is nice, but you don't have to go far to get to really empty woods with just a few hick houses around. At night, adult males like to take the kids on spook rides. Used to be that they drive us kids out. Get us lost. Take us in the woods. Leave us. Then jump out at us. Scary enough for me, but obviously we were never in real danger from that. This particular year, grandmother decides to host the spook ride, everyone else is too drunk. She obviously can't hide from us in the woods, so we decide to just drive around on the old back roads. Grandmother, aunt, younger sister, and 3-4 cousins all stuffed in Hummer. Not enough seats, I volunteer to sit in the trunk area. Bad idea. I should probably mention that this all was taking place around 1 in the morning. Driving along main roads, looking for a nice dirt path to go down. About 15-20 minutes away from our resort, pass a really deserted looking road next to an overgrown fields. Signs all over, no trespassing, private property. Grandmother doesn't even ask our opinion, immediately turns down it. Wind along for a while and don't see shit. Turn off headlights for maximum spooky. Finally a few lights flickering off either side every so often. They're just hick shacks, don't see any people, not too worried. Ma decides to fuck with us a bit, pulling off into driveways and pretending to ignore our pleas to keep driving and not stop. Eventually, Aunt wants to take over. Stop the car, they switch. I'm staring out the back window the whole time, just feeling generally spooked out. And is even more of a fucker than Grandma, goes down hills and around turns really quick. We scream but mostly out of delight. Come up on a crossroad, see something white in a tree. Is that a shirt? Drive closer, yes it is a shirt, but not just a shirt by itself. When we get close enough to see, which is really fucking close because it's so dark, we realize that it's a dead animal. Wearing the shirt. Looks like a bear, we aren't really certain. Nope, keep driving, and is slightly less of a fucker at driving now, she's probably a little spooked. Drive along for a while and once again don't see shit except for some hick shacks. How fucking big is this supposed private property, anyway? We've been driving around for a solid 20 minutes by now. Road narrows somewhat, we slow down further. Look ahead, something blocking the road. Looks like a fallen tree. Drive up to it to see if we can get around, and realize it's covered in shoes. Tied to all of its branches. Yeah, shoe trees are sort of a traveling thing, but this tree is in the middle of nowhere. Grandma laughs it off. People probably just put their shoes on it because it fell over. That doesn't make sense, too spooky for me and my younger cousins, let's beat it. Road is too thin at this point to turn around, so we have to drive backwards nearly the whole way. Really regretting sitting in the back now. Come back to the crossroads and the bare tree, it's still there, take a different road. We're all spooked but starting to get a bit bored now. Stop car, grandmother and aunt switch again. May eventually announces that we're never going to find anything interesting if we stick to the roads, we have to go up to a house. Nah nip. Kids all protest, she thinks it's funny and drives for a bit before pulling into a hellaciously overgrown path the rest of us didn't see. Driveway curves around quick, she accidentally drives off the road into a ditch. While she's extracting the car, aunt and cousins peer around the bend and say they see a shack-looking thing. Don't let's go towards it PLS. Grandma drives ahead anyway. Get a couple 100 feet away, realize it's not exactly a shack. More like a big-ass cage. Probably about 5 feet tall and twice as wide. One half is solid wood, the other is covered in a thick mesh we can't see through. Debate on whether something's moving inside. Younger cousins dare me to get out of the car and check it out, aunt joins in. Oh fuck no, tell them I'm staying put. Start calling me a sissy and such. I'm the oldest and also feminine, so had to show them up. Pop open the trunk, slowly climb out, forest is dead silent except for the car. Edge my way around it, they're all laughing at me from inside. Get past the front end of the car, definitely see something move and also notice an actual shack deeper into the woods behind it. Couldn't see it from inside car, looks old but not exactly abandoned. Nope. AVI. Bolt back into the car and tell them I'm calling my parents if we don't get out of there right the fuck now. Finally listen to me, but we have to pull a bit closer to have enough room to turn around. Slap me if I ever volunteer to sit in the back again. Stare unblinkingly out window the whole way back and don't feel safe until I'm inside my cabin. We tried to find the road again during the daytime to see what was really in the cage, but there are hundreds of dirt roads around there and we never found it.
B10. Live in the scrack of the woods far away from civilization. Bored, so I take a walk through the trees. The sun is halfway set. Not really scared of anything, bears don't hang around here. Come around a bend up a point where I usually turn and go back home. Look around for a bit, notice it's really quiet. About 40 feet away I see the shape of a human move slightly in a patch of tall, thin trees. Took several seconds of looking in that spot to notice. Too dark to make out any details. This area is our property, he or she shouldn't be here and I want to say something but can't get the words out. After a solid minute I realize something is very off. This person is the same shape as the trees surrounding them. Extremely tall and thin, with limbs extended out like branches. It's hard to describe what I was seeing, but its movements were extremely unusual, like if you recorded a person trying to walk underwater and then slowed the footage down. Not even sure if it could hurt me. It seemed really hazy, like a mirage or a distant memory. Looked like it was gliding around aimlessly, but very slowly. At this point I'm mesmerized, getting chills at the back of my neck, but I can't stop watching it. More time passes. Start to sit down on a big rock without taking my eyes off the thing. Shoe scrapes against rock fairly loud. The thing turns so slowly, I couldn't tell if it was looking at me because of the darkness, but I could fucking feel it. Instantly paralyzed with fear, I should have run at this point, but I didn't want to make any more noise, so I stayed put. Thing doesn't move either. For what must have been 5 fucking minutes this thing and me were perfectly still, no noise, nothing. Eyes start burning from not blinking. Finally get the courage to get out of there. Slowly slide off the rock, being as quiet as possible. Thing moves at the same time I do. Don't give a shit, just start backing down the path, never breaking eye contact. It's now moving every time I do. Like it's trying to mimic me. Just keep walking, unfeeling, like a machine. The second it's out of my sight I turn and run as fast as I fucking can. Make it back to house. Completely dark. Never tell anyone what I saw. In for Slenderman. Not a very satisfying ending, I know, but it feels good to get off my chest.
Middle of winter. Walking my dog in the woods behind my house. Come to my favorite spot, a secluded clearing with a giant twisty scary tree in the middle. See something weird at the foot of the tree from a ways off. Dog is freaking out, but I decide to check it out. It's a bunch of logs, shaped and set up to look like a small rectangular coffin thing. Oh shit. Newspaper covers the top of it. Oh shit, oh shit. Lift up the newspaper. Am greeted by a dead cat. Big black cat, frozen solid. Dog is going absolutely mental at his point, decide to leave. I don't know if it was like, part of a ritual or someone just wanted to bury their pet. But if they were just burying it, why make it so noticeable? Weird stuff happens all the time at this tree, but this was my favorite thing.
I got one dash. Camping with Boy Scouts. In the NJ Pine Barrens. We play capture the flag with glow sticks at night. Find a great field near the campsite. Get tagged out. Well shit. The jail is well back into the trees. It's pitch dark back here. By myself. Keep looking around. It's too quiet. I was pretty young. Not totally over fear of the dark. This is something more. Try to chill out. Look up at the moon. Something flies over the trees. Shaped like a bat, but way bigger. Like 10 feet wingspan. Adamantly refused to go away from the clearing the rest of the night. Dat Jersey Devil. I have a few from Australia, all happened in the same area of bushland. Be walking on gravel trail, super dense bush either side. Stop at a nice shady spot before a bend in the trail to have a smoke. 15 minutes pass. Hear footsteps in the gravel around the bend, definitely bipedal. Can't see the trail there because the bush is too thick. They get closer and closer. I kick the gravel a bit to let them know that I'm there, so they don't come round the corner and get surprised or whatever. Footsteps stop as soon as I make noise. Get up and have a look around the bend. Nothing. No one. How's footsteps.jpg. There's no way they could have moved off the trail in the 15 seconds between me kicking the gravel and looking around the bend. Definitely wasn't a roo or anything either, as I didn't hear it move off into the bush. Roos are noisy as fuck. More. Be 15 or 16-year-old me. Ride my BMX bike to a small set of jumps and berms built deep in the woods. Have to get off and cross swamps and shit to get there. My third time there. As soon as I get there I can feel that something isn't right. Feel like I'm being watched, do a few laps of the little track anyway. Stop for a drink of water. Suddenly a massive feeling of fear hits me. See something black and roughly 3 feet high on the ground about 20 meters in front of me. It moves left to right through the undergrowth, covering about 10 meters of bush in about 1 second. Nope the fuck out of there and never go back. It didn't move like any sort of animal, it seemed to glide through the undergrowth. I tried to convince myself that it was all a trick of the light or shadows or something, but another experience I had with these creatures in a nearby area made me change my mind on that. Next experience. About 18 years old. Love fishing, go fishing every weekend, rain, hail or shine. Hear about a spot up a creek that is only accessible at low tide, and is supposed to be crazy for flathead on a full moon. Let's fucking go.jpg. Go out there with 2 friends and a girl I was keen on at the time. It's about a 15-minute walk through mud and sand, including a 10 meters wade through waist-deep water. This is all in Hervey Bay, Queensland, so there are sharks everywhere and a very real chance of a croc being around. Fish for about 2 hours, and it's fucking terrible, only small whiting and a few shovel Nazis. Decide to explore the sand flats a bit before the tide changes and we have to leave. Find a small trail into the mangroves, about a meter wide. Standing about 10 meters from it. Suddenly something about 3 feet high runs incredibly fast from the sand flats into the trail. Everyone says that it looked like a troll, only half joking, decide it must be a feral pig or dog. We ended up leaving about half an hour later, but girl I was keen on forgot her phone. Go back with her to look for it, hoping to get in her good books if we find it. She thinks she must have dropped it while we were exploring. Go back to the sand flats near the trail. Suddenly she stops dead in her tracks and I hear her gasp. There is an animal standing in front of us, clearly illuminated by the full moon. About 3 feet high, completely covered in hair, arms down past its knees. It runs on 2 legs up the trail in the mangroves. Run as fast as we can out of there. I spoke to a local Aboriginal elder about it later, and he told me that it was a junjuday, which is basically a small yowie-like creature. There is barely any information online about these things, but I did find an anecdotal reference to mangrove men living in North Queensland which resemble what I saw. Any interesting innawoods stories? Got one from a couple years ago. Groups of friends go into local forest preserve. We hear it's haunted, you hear voices and stuff. Walking about 50 feet and smell lavender, weird for the middle of the winter as far as I know. Keep walking, start feeling like we're being watched. Deer every once in a while just staring at our group. 2 friends to this day claim to hear a voice whisper to turn back or leave. I see a shadowy figure but hard to tell if it's anything. Occasionally hear a drum the sound too. When we left I snapped another picture and there was a cross made of sticks on the ground we swear wasn't there when we went in. The forest preserve over here is supposedly haunted by a family of settlers who were killed by a group of natives. This happened 2 days ago. In western Colorado. Basically shitty desert except in the mountains. Decide to hike up a relatively difficult trail, 2,000 ascent and 2 miles. Up a pretty shitty mountain. I know the area well and decide to go off the main trail on a difficult to find and lesser known trail. Literally just cairns every so often. Goes directly away from the main trail. Pretty chill, I'm all on my own. But wait, I'm not. I see someone ahead and they say hello, much to my dismay. They ask to make sure they're going the right way to return to their vehicle. Are you fucking kidding? JPG. This trail goes 4 miles and doesn't lead to any major location. I'm hiking on it to see some abandoned mines. Lead this faggot back to the main trail. He was confident he was going the right way. I am hero. He would have walked to his death. Return to side trail. Make it to mine with no problem. Find some old pencils and shit. Remember that a mine was blocked off in the area because some faggot teacher went in it with 2 students and died. Realize these are probably dead kid school supplies. Sort of spoopy. I'll be returning tomorrow if my wife doesn't have anything she wants to do. The mine itself is blocked off, but I've heard there are air shafts cut into the surrounding hills. I think I'll go look at those. Be me. Working as tiny ass over yonder town deputy. Most of the people live in the hills/woods etc. Be one chilly, but nice. I remember the weather because it was perfect out, night. Driving around small roads in the woods. See a little flicker of light way in the distance. Stop my car, cue's curious. It's a flame, I can see it pretty clearly now. It's not a fire because it's kinda in mid-air like a bit off the floor. Flame gets kinda bigger. Someone is holding it. Looks like they are in a cloak. Maybe a poncho. Can barely make them out. They are looking in my direction though. Someone else steps out from behind them. This time wearing a black. Once again looks like a cloak. Could be a poncho. I get on the intercom. Y'all alright in there? Not even a wave. I know they can hear me though as they both look to each other. I try again. Wave the light if you need help. Nod is still just looking at me now. I radio the station and say, you guys know about anyone in the woods / campers etc. etc. Dispatch says just move along, just mountain folk that live up there and don't like to be bothered. I ask again. IDK about mountain people ... seems they are dressed up in cloaks. Dispatch says yep, that's them, just move it along, don't bother them. I move it along. As I'm driving along in the woods I see more and more flames sparking and movement in the little light they provide. Awful lot of mountain people. Camping on an island about 3 miles from home. The only thing on this island is a pub, a castle and 5 houses. Trying it, go to sleep in some old dusty bedroom. Decide to go for a cigarette and get some fresh air. Spend 10 minutes looking at all the lights from Blackpool which can be clearly seen on a nice night. Walk back to the house while passing the garden of the castle. See someone there walking through the entrance of the main building. Think nothing of it and slowly make my way towards the inside. Looked like some bloke, but I'm in the middle of nowhere and the only light source was my cig in the moonlight. Concerned because once you go in the castle you have to climb out. Some reason all the doors and windows are barred off, there is only one entrance. Think to myself, this pishhead is gonna fall flat on his face and probably break his arms. Jump down and walk to the other side of the building. No one is in here. Shout hello but no one replies. Actual shitting my pants because cannabis-induced paranoia. Speed walk to the pub and ask if anyone has recently left. It's a small island with about 10 people already on it. Tells me no and asks why I'm asking. Tell him what happened. Giggles to himself and tells me this happened before. Ask him about other encounter. People call it the Black Monk or some shit. Tells me this island used to have a tunnel leading to a local abbey which monks used regularly. I just stared out of the window looking at the castle all night. I was always skeptic but that shit freaked me out. Guys, I know reposts are shit but I didn't see this story for about a year. Spookiest shit I ever read. It was well written and rational, no fairy tale like Slenderman. Does anyone have the story? I know it only from memories. It goes like this. Me and my friend are from a small rural village near a forest. Basically when school is over we get overboard so we frequently go in the woods to play and explore, OFC never too deep. We regularly decide to bring my dog with us, not to stray too far and to keep us company. One day we are bored and decide to go play a little earlier. Bring my dog, it was broad daylight. Explore, have fun but get bored, and since it's still early to go home and do nothing we decide to go into forest a little bit deeper. Around 5 kilometers into forest dog senses something. We follow my dog and find a deer without a head. Want fresh, looked like couple of day old, smells really bad. Get nervous and scared, decide to head back home. Dog keeps looking back carefully. Didn't even get a few feet away he starts barking. One on leash so we stop him by hands. Scared shitless because he's fucking barking at the direction of a dead deer. If we let go him now we'll be even more scared. We don't see or hear anything so we go home walking at fast pace while keeping dog close to me. Few days later we think of it as not a big deal. Still go to woods regularly but not too far. Month later, a boring weekend. We decide to go into forest deeper again. We bring dog. Again after few km something smells. Dog want to go in direction of smell but we decide not to because of the last time. Smell start to get stronger. As we wanted to head back suddenly dog starts to bark and runs off before we could catch him. Call for him while running after him. We cross a small hill that was in front of us and behind it we find another fucking headless deer. This time it looked fresh, blood still dripping. We pause for a little to figure out WTF do we do. We chase our dog, he gets further and further until we no longer hear him. We call the dog but nothing, get scared because we went off our mental track, got lost, because we were running carelessly. 15 minutes going to a straight line trying to find our dog. We get to this little clearing, forest around it and a little hunter cabin in middle. We are relieved. We will ask someone if they heard a dog barking. We go to the middle, windows had curtains so we knocked. No response. We knocked 3 times but nothing. Disappointed we head back. Just as we are about to enter forest, my friend, who turned his look back, stops me with pale expression. I look back. At the window we see a deer head. Curtains close just as I looked. We are certain about what we just saw. We glaze at each other and start running as fast as we could. After a while we get tired but do not stop to run. 30 minutes we find a way out and enter a village. We were basically running the whole time. Exhausted we go home to my dad, who was a hunter. Tell him what happened. He gets pissed of saying what kind of a sick idiot is scaring children. Tells us he will go with us tomorrow, was getting dark, to try to find the cabin. I go to sleep, dog still has not returned. Day after my dad pick us his rifle and flashlights just in case. We find headless deer easy and in short amount of time. But it took us some time to find the opening with the cabin. Just as we found it, it was close to getting dark. Good thing we brought flashlights. Dad knocks, no one responds. Knocks a few times but nothing. It was getting dark, and since we found it we decided to head back and go back tomorrow. As we are about to enter the forest I glance back. I stop and others are alarmed. Everybody turn around. There is a fucking deer head watching us from the window, curtains close fast. My dad starts to run to the door and breaks them. Tell us to stay close, takes his rifle and carefully enters. We follow, no one in. There is a door to the left and also to the right. Right seems to lead to attic. Dad carefully climbs steps, whole time holding a gun. Shouts, "Is anyone there?" and we know you are, get out. Opens the door, nothing much to see. Look a little closer just in case someone is not hidden. No one there. Suddenly a loud noise coming from downstairs. We rush down. Sounds appear coming from that left door. We open it and it leads to a basement. Turn on flashlights and, for what it felt like an eternity, explore basement. Strangely no one is there. Dad is pissed off and starts shouting. We get upstairs, closing the door behind us. It was dark now. Dad decides for us to sleep inside and to hopefully catch that motherfucker. We lit fire, gather at the center, sit and wait. Sleeping time, taking turns for watching out. Dad has his gun in his arms whole time. Nervously get through the night. Sun starts to rise up, early morning. Suddenly a loud crash at the basement. We rush with Dad in front, who seemed like he was ready to fight a bear with his bare hands. He was pissed and stormed the basement like a hurricane. After a few second inspection we see that no one is there. Look more closely and see a hidden entrance that was opened recently. Go in. It was a 5 meters long hallway with something that looked like a shrine at the end. The path to the shrine was covered with blood and bones. At the shrine there were severed deer heads. We see an opening, go in and it leads in front house. We glaze at the forest when we heard someone running. We got just a small glimpse of what seemed like a man, wearing a deer head, blood still covering his neck. Dad, pissed and freaked out, shoots 3 rounds at that direction. Misses. We start chasing it but it was already far and we lost it. Decide to head back to village and report that there is some sort of maniac lurking in the forest. Go back with airy silence, watching all directions, constantly have the feeling that someone is watching us. Start to have a weird feeling, as if something was following us. Feeling disappears after a while. Get to the village. Dad summons hunters and warn them. They search the cabin and the forest but find nothing. They decide to be more careful from now on and tell us, children, not to go into forest again. 2 weeks passed, dog still not home. Did not go into forest again. A few hunters including my dad are going into woods to search the cabin. I persuade my dad to take me with them. As we got into clearing we see that there is no cabin. It was burned down recently. We get closer. There are stones, put around in a small circle, right at the middle of the cabin, and at the center there were dog bones. Live next fishing town with farmland and estates surrounding 3/4 of town, last 1/4 is coast. Friends and I go on adventure. Head through wasteland that was a mill. Up past graveyard to fancy estates with lots of land and like bocage dividing them. One of the estate gardens has a treehouse in it. Check treehouse, what looks like blood splattered all over the inside. Head to Hangman's Hut, little building on estate with loads of ropes hanging from the ceiling, think it's where they'd hang livestock after slaughtering them, became local suicide spot along with pedo lair. Check the place out. Ropes there, blood splatters all over the place like whole cows have been minced. Hearing weird noises in the field. Series of moans and wails and like a creaking noise. Nope. Tfo. We sprint across the field towards bocage and river. Someone chasing after us making all kinds of weird noises from like a gnashing to clucking and whooping. We all hop over barrier onto wooded path, same path as in part 2, and there he is coming at us. Scruffy with beard, really bad skin and all in rags. Run. Get back to civilization. Head back next morning all armed to the teeth. Head back to Hangman's Hut. Flash torch inside hut. Weird symbols and markings on floor. Walk around forest area from where the crazy guy came from. Find a clearing. Trees have been cut so any branches within clearing have been cut back so it's like a clear circle in the woodland. All the trees in the clearing have axes, blades sticking out them facing into the circle. Axes, blades have idols, ribbons, fabric hanging from them. Nope the fuck out. Earlier this year, around February, March. Friend and I head out for a walk in woodland estate and drink some booze. Walking back, been out all day. It's dark. Decide to walk along woodland path for spooks. Also a suicide spot. Walking along talking about politically incorrect stuff regarding refugee crisis. Stop for a piss. Can hear rustling in bushes. Rustling is moving with us as we continue on. Talking about Fugees. Big rock by side of path. Young guy in tracksuit sitting on rock like rodent thinker. Both of us go quiet. Guy just appeared, both spooked. Guy blended in with rock, that kind of gray night when the moonlight is obscured by trees. Just pretends to keep talking and pretend I never saw him so I said to him I was like, you know I said. As clear distance from him friend says anon ... you saw what I saw I say WTF was that all about? Guy didn't try to hide or anything. We hurry back to civilization, same way I went in part 1. Laughing and talking about it. Don't mention it. Next day colleague's friend is walking along woodland path with his son when they both see the guy hanging from a tree. We meet. Out hunting in the woods, boars. Actually shoot one, can see him drop dead through the scope. It was something like 600 meters out, so it'll take time to get there, especially since it's very hard to navigate terrain. On my way there, get the creeps, like something is about to go wrong, or I'm being watched, roosed. That weird, sixth sense you get sometimes. Look around. Definitely getting paranoid now. Climb up tall tree. Take a look around, spend 5 minutes scoping the surroundings. Wolves are common in the area, but I see no wolves or traces of wolves, and they usually don't stalk people during the day. Get nothing from search. Look over to where I killed boar, less than 100 meters now. Gone. Fuck, someone stole my boar. I'd been out there 6 hours too. Go to site. Blood trail makes it pretty easy to follow. Strange that the wolves didn't eat it right there though. Assume it must have been another hunter, but I think I'd have heard or seen him. Also, it's not exactly good manners to steal others people's catch. Never mind that, start following trail. Noted that footprints in the dirt look almost like human bare feet. WTF.ISO. Trail leads me to what looked to be an abandoned factory. It was one of my reference points when getting familiar with the area. It's about 2 kilometers from where I first killed the boar. It has a tall tower that overlooks the surrounding area and building. Decide to go up and take a look. Factory has pretty much no roof, so I can see inside. Start scoping area. Nothing on surroundings. Look inside the factory. It's multiple floors, so I can only see the 3rd floor from the top of the tower. Nothing interesting. Go down. Don't want to enter factory, because it's fucking spooky, and I've been getting that paranoid feeling since this started. Just standing there, looking at it. Suddenly, movement on the 2nd floor. Saw what appeared to be a head going down and away from the window, as if hiding. Hard drops. Definitely scared now. Why would another hunter hide? Why would anyone hide? Pretend I didn't see it. Turn around and walk away. I know there are some hill about 700 meters away that'll allow me to scope out the situation, without putting myself in danger. Start rationalizing it. Maybe it's just punk kids afraid of getting caught. Why so far away in the woods though? Occasionally give a quick glance behind me. Get to hill. Hide behind bushes and camouflage. Wait for what seems to be 2 minutes. Normal at first, birds chirping, etc. Position myself, prone, camouflaged by bushes and a dead tree log, overlooking the factory. About to put rifle up when I hear birds going wild and flying away to my right, must have been north. Hear steps in the distance. Frozen in fear. Look, slowly towards the direction. 2 men, very poorly dressed, rags, barefoot, dirty and very fucking ugly, borderline fucking inbreeds. They appear to be scouting the area, both of them are carrying machetes and one is carrying what appears to be a revolver. You see where the son of a bitch went? Definitely this way. They're about 70 meters away now. At this point I'm frozen in fear. Pull out my handgun. For the record, I hunt with a Winchester Model 70. And I carry a 1911. Hide in bush and hope for the best. I really don't want to kill someone. All kinds of shit are racing through my mind. Think of running, maybe he's a shit shooter. They go past me and into the woods. Stop hearing them. Can't risk it, no. Take out my map. Mark the location on it. Look at 2nd floor. There's a woman, who looks very sick and badly treated, bruises, cuts, very thin, etc., just as poorly dressed, watching in my direction, through the same window I saw the movement in. Sometimes it looks as if she's looking at me. She turns around to my boar, looks like it's halfway skinned. Devise plan, get up. Climb tree. Wait. I can't go away, since she'll probably spot me, and I don't want to be tracked through the woods by machete-wielding maniacs. If I'm gonna face them, at least I'll have the high ground and a surprise element. At this point, I don't think I've ever been this scared. I might actually have to shoot someone, a person. WTF have I gotten myself into? 10 of the worst minutes of my life go by. Hear sounds, they're coming back. The tree is tall enough that they'd need to actually look up to see me. They're talking about how I'm a sly dog and how I ran away faster than a bullet. How at least they got my boar. I'm just praying to every god I know that they don't look up. They go by and into the building. At this point it's about 6 p.m., getting dark fast. It's full moon tonight, but I don't want to have to fend off wolves too, especially since that would mean creating a fire, which would attract the maniacs. As soon as they go in the building, I climb down and fucking run for it. Get home maybe 1 hour later, still running. Get in, lock all doors, call police, explain exactly what happened. The police found signs of illegal squatting and my boar carcass, half-eaten. But they didn't find them. I've never gone hunting again, and I'm kind of scared to this day when I think about it. I lived in an old New England town growing up. There was an old 1700s family cemetery plot deep in the woods behind my childhood home. An old map of the town describes the area as Hell's County, as cheesy as that sounds. Supposedly there were satanic groups and even witch hangings in the area around the time of the town's founding. The plot was stumbled upon by my brother and I when we were exploring the vast wetlands and forest behind the neighborhood. Funny thing is when we would take others to go see if there were problems. First attempt, our cousins were over and we wanted to show them. They were very interested and we started off into the forest. Shortly after we got close to the site our whole group was attacked by mud wasps. My cousins never stepped foot in the plot. The second attempt months later we were swarmed by bugs. The cloud of bugs was so dense they made it even hard to see. However, a year or two later by myself in the woods I had no issue crossing through. Strange place. 2004. I was heading up to Glasgow in the December. As I got to Carlisle it came over the radio that there was an overturned truck blocking the motorway. So I headed back to go a different route, along the border next to the biggest forest in the UK, Kielder National Park. The weather was foul, windy, teeming with rain, and pitch black. My fuel was running low. It's 248 square miles of forest. I drove another 20 miles through the forest, becoming pretty worried now. No mobile phone signal. Turned the corner I caught a glimpse of a man and a young girl. The nearest town is at least 20 miles in either direction. I didn't know what to think. A guy and a kid in this weather in the middle of the forest? Mind racing but needed directions. I stopped the car and opened the window. I noticed he was wearing a flannel shirt and the little girl a summer dress. With a gulp in my throat, I said, "Can you tell me the way out of here to a petrol station please?" He just looked at me, not saying a word, and then pointed eastwards. I thanked him and sped off. I was almost sure I was going to look in the rearview mirror and see them sitting in the back seat. Thank God nothing happened. I drove as fast as I could in those conditions to find the town of Newcastle, a small village in the borders with a fuel station. The pump attendant told me the motorway had been reopened ahead of schedule. Grad school. We can get 2 classes worth of credits if we do a 2-week volunteer service mission in Costa Rica. Beam me the fuck up, Slappy. Going down to help a poor village build some infrastructure. Get there. It's June. Hot and humid as fuck. All of my classmates are staying in one big brick hut. We're all given mosquito nets. Told it's very important to set up the net correctly on our beds. It goes under our mattress and hooks up above our bed in a teardrop design, and to stay in it after dark. Sunsets. I guess I'll get in the mosquito net, but it can't be that bad, right? All the lights are turned off. Fair amount of mosquitoes but not that bad. Looks like the walls and ceilings are moving. Take out my cell phone and shine it against the wall. Legs in every nook and cranny of the wall. Small legs, big legs, furry legs. See crab-shaped things on the ceiling. Oh my God, we're surrounded by spiders. Try to stay calm. Suddenly something is right by my face. Takes a second for my eyes to adjust. Don't need the light to realize it's a dinner plate-sized spider on the other side of the mosquito net, like 2 inches from me. Spaz out and hit the net so it knocks it off. Spend the night absolutely terrified. Doesn't get better as the days pass, but you realize the spiders leave you alone. Then one day, the fat fuck of the class runs by moving faster than an Olympic sprinter. Yells out, "Spider chasing me." Fuck off, spiders don't chase people. Notice the leaves are rustling in a straight line towards us. Finally see it. A fuck huge spider is charging at us. Run the fuck away. No wonder they gave us so many credits for just 2 weeks. My late uncle told me his ghost story. Might have been a bear, Out off, my uncle said it was way too small and white-grayish. My uncle checking fences around some guy's lands, using a quad bike. Stops for the night, doesn't want to drive through the forests in dark. It's one of the free-to-use cabins that litter the area around hiking roads. Everything is fine, a windless pitch-black spring night. Hears grunting and footsteps from outside. Thinks someone is coming inside for the night, starts making tea to drink with the newcomer. Sees something walking upright lurk behind windows. Thinks it's someone checking if there is anyone inside. Goes to the door to call the guy in, no answer. Thinks he must have been imagining things. Goes to sleep. Sees a fairly human shape staring at him from the window at the end of his bed. Gets the shit scared out of him. Runs to the door and locks it. Something starts to bang at the door at the same second. Goes to the cellar of the place, flooded up to his waist. Uses a thick wooden plank to block the cellar hatch. Something walks inside the cabin. Hear grunting, smell of rotten wood in the cellar blocks his nose. He tries not to make a sound as he listens to it. He keeps hearing the walking for the entire night. Waits well into the next day when the landlord comes to search for him. Comes up with a story about accidentally falling in the cellar and couldn't get up. Landlord says that a bear has scratched the door at night. No bear prints. Skinwalker trying to get him?